A university professor tells a student there are gangsters and thugs occupying the White House. All right, before we start, I've got a great new sponsor for the show, Gold Co. If you want to diversify your portfolio, protect your savings, safeguard your retirement, try investing in gold with Gold Co. Go to MrReaganLikesGold.com or call 844-696-GOLD or click on the link in the description below. Ladies and gentlemen, this video represents exactly what you can expect when you send a kid to college these days. All right, so this morning I got a text message from a friend of mine, and this is a friend who is in college. Her name is Isabella, and this girl is a massive overachiever. She is fantastic in just about every academic field. Now, I met her whilst I was in Washington, D.C., and immediately we hit it off. And the reason we hit it off is because this is probably the nicest girl you will ever meet in your life. She's a very sweet girl. And she showed a great interest in working with me on the projects that I currently have planned. And I told her, let's see how things go. If these projects take off, then yeah, sure, of course, I'll bring you on board. Who wouldn't want to bring on board an enthusiastic overachiever? So as time went by, I said, look, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get you work on any of my own projects. We'll see. Maybe I can, maybe I can't. But I do know a few people at the White House. And since you're in DC, going to a university at DC, maybe I can help get you an internship there. So I contacted some people I know at the White House who I had already introduced this girl to and who liked her very much. And I said, can you put in a good word for her? And they said, absolutely. Have her send in her application for this internship. And yeah, I'll definitely talk to them and see what we can do. And I'm very fortunate because I know, quite a few people over at the White House. So it was great. I thought this girl's a shoo-in. She's exactly the kind of person that they're going to want. Now, part of the application process is that you have to get a few recommendations of people who know you and who can vouch for you as a great, impressive person, right? This is typically how internships work. So this girl, she goes up to one of her professors, a professor who likes her very much because she, as I said, she's an overachiever and she likes this professor very much. He's a nice guy. So she emails her professor and she says, can you potentially write me a recommendation for this internship? Now, this man's name is Mark Mullen. He is an associate professor of writing at George Washington University in Washington, D.C. This guy, Professor Mark Mullen, he is an absolute lunatic. So this guy writes his student, one of his favorite students, Isabella, a student that he respects, that he likes, he writes her back the following letter. He says, Isabella, I apologize in advance for the bluntness of this response. As a matter of personal policy, I do not write references for anyone who wants to go and work for any senator or congressperson who is attempting to destroy democracy. Notice that his hyperbolic language isn't even creative. He's just taking that straight out of the mouth of Rachel Maddow. Anyway, he goes on. He says, so I am certainly not going to write a reference for anyone who wants to go and work directly with the gangsters and thugs currently occupying the White House. He goes on, if you like, I can list the names of the people I know who have been fired from their jobs or forced out due to this regime, including my partner, who have had their research grants canceled, offers of graduate positions rescinded, and their government-affiliated contracts cut. He then says, Newsmax, while an enabler of fascism, is at least still nominally a news organization. And the reason he said that, of course, is because Isabella had volunteered to work at the Newsmax party at the inauguration in January, and that's actually where I met her. So he knew about that, and he wanted to say, I'm okay with you volunteering for the Newsmax party. I'm not okay with you working at the White House. So then he goes on, working directly for an authoritarian government is entirely another thing, especially for the offices of that regime that are responsible for spewing a seamlessly endless and bottomless torrent of misinformation and outright lies. Maybe you are simply starstruck by the status of working in the White House, which in many ways is even worse than working there because you believe in their cause. There's a severe logical inconsistency there. If she's simply starstruck by the status, then that is actually the antithesis of believing in their cause, right? I mean, that would just be a completely alternate motivation. So what the hell are you talking about? This guy's obviously so emotional about this that he can't even think rationally. And then he says, I have to say, I am disappointed. You are wicked smart and a great writer, Isabella. And I thought you had a much stronger moral and ethical code than this. Mark. Mark you are a total degenerate piece of shit. All right, I will break down my entire perspective on this guy, Mark, in one moment. First, let's take a break to talk about something positive. My amazing sponsor. Attention, retirement savers. JP Morgan predicts a 2025 recession as tariffs have rattled the markets. And according to Forbes, 2025 recession risks just increased significantly. And that's the thing about the global economy. Markets are just darn hard to predict. And that's why thousands of hardworking Americans are turning to the award-winning precious metals company, Goldco. And if you are worried about market instability or a potential recession, my partners over at Goldco are offering you a free 2025 gold and silver kit. Plus, you could get an unlimited instant match in bonus silver for qualified accounts. Call 844-696-GOLD or visit MrReaganLikesGold.com. Find out how you can help diversify your savings tax and penalty-free today. That's 844-696-GOLD or visit MrReaganLikesGold.com. All right, now I looked up this guy and I checked out his website and I looked at some of his writing, and it just drones on and on and on. Just like, it's not charming, it's not interesting. The way he writes is incredibly boring. How this guy ever got a job as a university professor of writing is beyond my comprehension. The guy cannot write. But this whole thing is just, it's totally emblematic of such a severe problem at universities. These universities are hiring people who are openly hostile to any political views that are opposed to their own. Now, look, we all have political opinions. And we all, I didn't like Barack Obama. And I actually used to teach Photoshop and graphic design and stuff like that. I used to teach adults. And if any of my students had come up to me at that time and they had said to me, Chris, I have an opportunity to go do an internship for Barack Obama at the White House. Now, I don't like Barack Obama. I don't like that administration. But had somebody come up and asked me, can you write me a recommendation to go work there? I would have said, yeah, of course. I would be honored to write you a recommendation to go work there. Because what a crazy opportunity. What an amazing opportunity. How many people get that opportunity? Such a small, an unbelievably small percentage of the planet ever gets the opportunity to do something like that at such a young age, do an internship at the White House. Amazing, amazing opportunity. The idea that this guy would take a student whom he respects, whom he likes clearly. He says, you are wicked smart and a great writer, Isabella. The guy teaches writing at a university level, and he says this girl is a great writer. You don't get much higher praise than that. To say somebody is great at the field of study at which they're supposedly an expert. But what does this guy do? He is motivated by personal hatred. Personal hatred. His hatred for Donald Trump and the administration is so intense that he would rather deny one of his favorite students an opportunity to work at the White House, the most powerful building on the planet. He would deny this girl this opportunity because of his own personal biases, because he doesn't like Donald Trump, because he doesn't like the administration. This guy is sick. This is Trump derangement syndrome to a whole other degree. This is not normal. No university should hire this person. No McDonald's should hire this person. This person is not mentally healthy. Look, if this guy had said in his letter, look, I'm really sorry. I know this is a huge opportunity for you. I really like you. I respect you. I think this could be an amazing thing for you. But the problem is, I like you so much, and I'm so concerned about your well-being that I cannot in good conscience write you this letter. If he's that worried about the Trump administration being evil, he should be worried that, maybe they would infect her with their conservative ideas or something like that. Yeah, I can understand that. If he wrote a letter like that, even though I would, obviously I'd read it and roll my eyes and laugh at the guy and think he's nuts, I would think, well, at least through his insanity, he at least cares about this girl. He's doing this because he cares about the girl. This does not appear to be a case of him caring about this girl. This appears to be a case of him just hating Donald Trump and the administration so much that he would rather deny this girl this opportunity than write her a recommendation just because he hates them. In fact, he writes at the end, this is the craziest thing, he writes at the end, I thought you had a much stronger moral and ethical code than this. So what he's suggesting there is that he used to think that she was a moral and good person. Not only is she wicked smart and a great writer, but he thought she was a moral and an ethical person. And now he doesn't. Now he thinks she's an evil person. because she wanted an internship at the White House. These are the kinds of people that are teaching the children of this nation. Now, isn't it ironic that this guy, who is a severe radical leftist, university professor, right, buys into all the crap that the left believes, right, which is deeply feminist. I think we all know that. And they say they want to elevate women, and we need more women in positions of power. We need to give women more great opportunities. This white man, who I'm sure claims to be a feminist himself, would deny this young woman one of the most significant opportunities of her life simply because he disagrees with the policies of the administration for which she would work. What a degenerate. What an evil, disgusting human being. Anyway, I think you all know that these are the kinds of people that we deal with here in America. And normally we see them ranting and screaming on TikTok. But I think it's less common that we see somebody with this amount of power being exposed in a position to potentially warp the minds of young students. This guy should not be anywhere near college students. This guy suffers from some kind of brain damage that we call Trump derangement syndrome. Well, I hope my friend gets her internship, and I don't think this professor's recommendation would have had any impact anyway. At the end of the day, he's a nobody. He's less than nobody. And my friend, I believe, is going to turn out to be a much more impressive person in this life than he could ever dream to be. All right, well, that's it for me. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Have you had horrific experiences with university professors? Have your kids had horrific experiences with university professors? I thought it was getting better in this country, but in terms of academia, I think it might be getting worse. What do you guys think in the comment section below? And remember, it's not that all liberal friends are ignorant. It's just they know so much that is not so. Good night.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars. And it's been said if we lose that war, and in so doing lose this way of freedom of ours, history will record with the greatest astonishment that those who had the most to lose did the least to prevent its happening. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth.